Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us at World of Pets podcast. We love having you here on a weekly basis. And we want our pets to live as long as possible, but we want that to be a good quality life. So, to that end, we on this podcast explore all things about pets and animals so that we can have them around for a long time, but they are living a quality life. So, again, thank you for joining us. Take it away, hosts.
That's you tonight,
Hello.
buddy. That's you
What's up,
tonight.
buddy? Welcome to the World of Pets podcast. I'm Anthony. You all know that I have a special guest host tonight named Claire. This is our microphone for tonight. And just kidding. Tonight, of course, the show is, as always, is sponsored by debspets.com. That's DEBSPETS.com. And you've got a microphone too. I might put mine down because I'll forget it's my microphone. But anyway, tonight we have a special guest that's normally my co-host named Peyton Pooh or David, and David is going to be talking to us about bees, and that, my friends, is the bee's knees.
It is the
You
bees.
got bee here to talk about bees and figure out the buzz all around them.
All the buzz. All the buzz is about the bees. And so I have to start off with a retraction because I mentioned on a prior podcast that beekeepers were communicating telepathically with
Yeah.
the bees when it turns out I did a lot of research on this. What they're actually responding to is frequency and vibration and calmness.
So it's
So
not telepathic. I mean,
it is
telepathic.
not telepathic. It is not. So I
Okay.
mean that goes back to like Tesla theory and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, well, that makes perfect sense. I mean, almost every animal reacts to your attitude, the way that you're responding to them, the way that you talk to them, all that stuff. So, Miss Claire, what would you like to ask me first?
Oh, when did you start getting into bees?
So I first got into bees when I was about 7 or 8 years old. And what I loved about bees was watching them go from flower to flower in the backyard. And they weren't, my parents told me, don't worry about it, just leave them alone. Just leave them alone.
There you
You'll
go.
be fine. So my parents knew a little bit more about bees than I did at that time. And so as I learned over the years about bees and how they pollinate flowers, they actually go from one, I forget the name of the what it's called in the flower, but there's like say if you were to take a columbine, right? It's
What's
got like
this?
five prongs right there in the middle of the flower. So they will go from one to the other to the other to the other, and they're what's called cross pollinating, but they're cross pollinating the same plant at the same time. And so then they'll go fly to another plant and they'll take the pollen from that plant and pollinate the other plant, which is
Oh,
really fascinating.
cool.
Nice.
So, do you do any beekeeping yourself? Do you have like a box or a hive?
I have a man purse.
What? What?
Singing pants?
No, I don't do any beekeeping myself. But what I do is literally just stay calm, walk away, and watch them work. There's several different types of bees as well. So there's worker bees, beehive bees, queen bees. I'm missing one in my brain right now, but I'm also missing a brain. So, but there's distinct difference between all of them. And the pollinators are the most common that you witness, like going flower to flower, garden to garden, all that stuff. And the interesting thing about that is most of them are males, and most of them actually don't have stingers.
Yay.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's mostly the females, and we'll get to this part later on. when we talk about the females and the queens and all that stuff. Because the male bees, they really have like one job. Hi, Mom. You want to be on TV? So their main job is literally pollination. So they go, and when they use their little dingy things, their little bee's knees, and they get in there. So what they're doing is they're pulling the pollen out of the tips of the flowers, right? So, and then they're moving that pollen, which could be male or female of that plant, and moving it to another part of that plant.
Sure.
So, a lot of plants are both male and female. So, it's a interesting thing that I
Plants are
discovered.
male and female. Plants have gender.
Yep, we're at that point in our life, Anthony, that we have to identify plants as male and female together at the same
I'm
time.
assuming roses are female.
Roses are red.
Right. Yeah. And violets are blue.
Roses are red, violets are blue, mustard is yellow.
That's a good one. I like that. She's cute. So when they're cross pollinating, so they're not just going from the same flower to another flower of the same breed. They usually go from one flower to a totally different breed, and that's where the cross pollination comes.
Yep. Yep.
And so, like, they could go from a rose to a cucumber plant, or then from a cucumber plant to a squash plant. And that's why we actually have cross pollination, which is so important in our actual ecosystem. It is unfortunately under duress right now. But
Yes.
we can help. We can plant flowers. We can plant wildflowers. We can plant gardens. We can plant all of that.
Can
And
we
we
plant
can
mushrooms?
say that one more time.
Can we plant mushrooms?
Absolutely, you can plant them.
Versicolor mushrooms.
Yeah, Coriolis versicolor
Science.
specifically.
It's by
But but there's other kinds of mushrooms, and actually, it's funny you should bring this up. That are edible. There's an orange cap mushroom, grows about 6 to 8 inches. It's very, very edible, and it has the gills on the back. All right, pops up in late spring or late summer in Colorado. We actually love to look for those when we go on hikes, and they have the gills. So if you're familiar, some mushrooms have sponges, and some have gills. Okay, and the a lot of them there's a big variance. So what you want to do when you're looking for mushrooms, I'll get back to the bees in here in a second, but it's important to know, watch what the deer are eating when it comes to mushrooms, because they're the ones that usually are transplanting the spores after digestion. So back to the bees and the bee's knees, by the way.
The bee's knee.
So when you get into and by the way, mushrooms don't need pollinization. They just need the spores to be transported.
They need science.
But yeah, well, definitely science. I need science just to get out of bed. But so when you get back to the bees and you start to observe the ecosystem around you, if you're a gardener, you probably already know this. But if you're not, and you just like to sit outside and then, oh my gosh, there's a bee, you probably don't need to be afraid of it if you're not freaking out. They're not aggressive. They are literally there to do a job, and that job is to cross pollinate different plants. So the genetics happen when. Well, I'll keep using the rose and let's just say squash today. So they get the pollen from the rose. They buzz around to the rest of the rose branch. Okay. And then they think about going home, but then they see another plant, which squash, I don't know if you know, actually grow flowers too, just like cucumbers. They all flower before they fruit. So that's the important part of the transformation and the That's probably the wrong word. All right, help me out here. All right, so from the cross pollination from one plant to another. All right, so roses are essential for squash. Squash is essential for cucumbers. You can go down the whole list, and every summer I have at my mom's house. We have 6/10 of an acre here, and I leave all the natural flowers growing in the back, all of them, and I mow around them, and I do that so that they can pollinate even the grass, the natural grass that's there. They can pollinate the pine trees. They can pollinate anything that they're able to go from point to point to point. So, did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so. So my parents have their ranch up in the Pacific Northwest. You can watch out to the show.
Mhm.
And they have yellow jackets, and these bees are mean and their sting hurts. But here's an interesting thing. I'd be out when I was helping my parents up there. I'd be out like going back and forth. And I'd be completely surrounded by like 7, 8, 10, maybe a dozen of these yellow jackets. I didn't get stung one time. If one saw my dad, he got stung. Now, I have no science behind this. It's just my hypothesis from the fact that I wasn't getting stung and he was getting stung. Is I think that when you panic, you omit a certain odor that the bees like. When you just kind of stay calm and do your thing, it's almost like they don't even bother with you. Now, that's just my theory because I have no science behind that, but I know I didn't get stung.
Well, the article that I was reading the other day,
What?
what they call that is a pheromone. Okay. So if you're in fear, you let off one thing. If you're in peace, you let off another thing. Okay. We're not sensitive enough to smell those pheromones, right? To be like, oh, that's a specific odor. But the animals often can smell that. And so I went out to my shed one day, and speaking of yellow jackets, opened the shed, and I got swarmed. I got stung 8 times in the face, right? It's because I disturbed their nest, right? It wasn't because I was afraid, it's because I was invasive on their space. So there's a couple ways that you're going to be able to avoid that, keep up on the nests, first of all, and to just remain calm anytime that these kinds of aggressive insects are going to be in your presence. The calmness is the best thing.
Science. It's scientifical.
Hmm.
Yes.
That's why we have scientists.
Have you ever been stung by a bee
My foot.
in your foot?
A big old foot. Yes.
In your big old foot? When did you get stung?
I forgot, but I was saving a bee one time.
So, do you know the difference between types of bees, like pollinating bees, honey bees, yellow jackets, wasps, hornets?
Wasps are different than bees.
Hmm.
Yes, they are.
I'll explain how because it's science. Anyway, well, wasps are bigger than bees. Bees are smaller, and bees collect pollen from
Pollen, yeah.
pollen, and I don't know what wasps collect.
Well, in my experience, what I've done in research for yellow jackets and wasps and whatnot, they actually tend to go towards rotted meat.
Ew.
Yeah, I know. That's what I said too. I said,
Uh-oh. Your volume just went out. What? David?
yeah, I know. I know. Somebody called me trying to get back in. All right, there we are.
Oh,
So, the wasps and bees, they actually go for small rotted meat, and they actually build their nests in small crevices, up in corners in your house. But the unique thing about it is they also build them with the shape of the honeycomb. Now, if you're not making honey, why would you make a honeycomb?
To attract the honeybees,
And for honeys to make bees.
so they could kill them.
I wish honey would make bees.
Lost from you.
That was adorable.
It's true. They do make bees. I mean, they do make honey.
Yeah,
So,
so they design things in the same way, in the same pattern, because they're of the same species, basically. Okay, they're a little bit different, a little bit off. Some are nice, some are not. Some are aggressive, some are just workers. And so they make the same pattern. Like when you go to look up online a beekeeper, something like that, and everything's a honeycomb shape, just like the cereal. And
the
that
cereal
shape is what the beekeepers are doing to pull the honey out that the worker bees put in there. Now it's all pollen, it's all processed. I don't really want to tell you what it actually is.
What is it?
It's something that you probably wouldn't want to eat if you found it on the trail in the woods. Let's just put it that way.
Is it mustard?
no.
That's not much.
It's kind of
So
something to eat.
it's a byproduct of their work, is what it is. It goes through their system and comes out the other side.
Yes, Brody.
Ew.
But it's nice and sweet when it does. So um, let's transition into another thing, another aspect of why bees are important in our let's call it
Lives.
our economy. Our economy is very, very reliant on bees. Not only is it important for farmers, not only is it important for, clearly agriculture, all that stuff, but they also help maintain smaller pests, if you will. But they're super sensitive to pesticides, which is really tragic. So that's why we have a decreasing population of bees. So in the industry that I was in for 30 years, this is one of the interesting things that I discovered. So being in flooring for 30 years, when you pull a toilet to change out a vinyl floor, tile floor, whatever, what was on the bottom of the toilet to make a seal? Do you know?
Bees.
Caulking.
No bees.
I don't know why we're talking about toilets right now.
Caulking.
We're getting there. All right. So what is on the bottom of a toilet most of the time, up until recently, after the bees started uh, declining in population, were beeswax toilet seals.
Oh.
Ew.
Yes. So they had an industrial use. And you can use them. They're very prominent in lip balm. They're very prominent in sealing wood for construction, that kind of stuff. So when this decline started to happen, they started to make more of those things out of petroleum, like an accordion, if you will, instead of just a wax seal instead. So the accordion seals are not.
You can't read it.
Mind
What does it say? Mind your
Own beeswax.
mind beeswax. Mind your own beeswax.
your own beeswax. That's right. Mind your own business. And so yeah, so when we talk about bees and the ecosystem and everything else, it goes beyond food. It goes beyond getting stung by one. Okay.
Mm.
It goes to there's a literal industrial use for their byproducts. And that's what I think is absolutely fascinating. And you know what's important about buying local honey where you live?
What's that?
The important thing is it identifies very specific allergies and antigens that are in your area that might make you sick. So it's a good antibiotic. It's a good anti-allergy. It's all kinds of goodness. Bees are super important in our world. Super important.
I agree. Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. So you do keep bees at your mom's house a little bit?
Outside only. She panics if I
How
get a
many do you have?
speck of dust in here. Actually, I sat outside yesterday. The flowers are starting to sprout out here. I think I saw 4 or 5 at one time, which was actually a pretty good count. So yeah, and they were just going hopping flat, sprout to sprout. They're starting to pollinate the brand new flowers this time of year in Colorado Springs. We're at 6,500 feet above sea level. We just had our, I think, hopefully, our last frost about a week ago. So I really think everything's starting to reset for the spring and, ramp up for summer so that we can grow some delicious vegetables, fruits, all that good stuff.
Cool. Any questions you have about David's bees or David's bees knees?
I thought you saw 12 according to my calculations yesterday.
That's good.
According to your calculations, yes.
My calculations are better than your calculations.
Probably. Yep. Probably.
That's right, old fella.
So interesting. So, do you get any honey or anything from the bees?
So I don't do it personally. So I go to my local farmers markets and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
The quality is hands down far better than supermarket quality. Even the ones that say, "Oh yeah, grown locally" or "It's truly organic and unfiltered" and all that stuff. If you went and bought the unfiltered organic honey at the grocery store, and you went to a farmer's market, and you went up to somebody that said, "Yeah, I just pulled this right off of my hive, unfiltered," the next question for me would be, "Cool, can I get a toilet seal?"
You
No.
Because
talking
the
about
reason the
spoilers?
reason is the reason is because it's going to be pure and perfect. It's local. It's not only just that it's local. But you're helping your local economy, by the way. So it's important to get local honey. And I will go hands down local economy all day long. I avoid corporate anything as often as possible. But when it comes to honey, you got to get it at your local supermarket. And the great thing is, I don't know if you knew about this, but some of the ancient tombs in Egypt that are over 2,000 years old, older than when Jesus walked the planet,
Mm-hmm.
had jars of honey that was perfectly edible 2,000 years later. It is a natural preserved product, God given, 100%.
Oh yeah.
Can't beat it. I mean, that blew my mind when I found that out.
We've got some really cool stands out here. Like, I mean, literally, people will take their vehicle, put out a folding table, and set up from their hives their own naturally made honey and honey products that they've made from their hives that they've gotten out of their honey. I knew a guy that was a bee. He was doing his own bee boxes, and he had these boxes, and he had gone and bought, I think they call it a colony, a colony box, and it had some bees in there. And something happened in his car. He had to slam on his brakes, and the whole box busted open in the car, and there was just bees flying around in his car.
Oh my goodness.
Stung.
I think he did, yeah.
That would be unfortunate. And sticky, by the way.
I would be sticky.
Yeah, that would worry me the most. I wouldn't be too much afraid of the bees. I'd be more afraid of having to clean up the honey and the pollen in the car, honestly.
Yep. Well, David, thanks for sharing your knowledge. Is there anything you want folks to know or remember or understand about bees?
Well, yeah. So don't be afraid, first of all. Stay calm when they're around. Don't swat at them. Don't do any of that stuff. I know my mom's standing here right now shaking her head, but just stay calm. They exist as part of our environment. It's very important that they're a part of our environment. We want them to survive longer than us so that our grandkids and great grandkids can enjoy healthy, happy food and honey. By the way, if you just want to stick it in a jar and stick it under the mattress, guess what? It'll be fresh for them.
I don't
Awesome.
like honey. I don't like it.
You don't like honey?
It has a weird flavor.
Oh no, natural honey is really, really good. And it's
Yeah.
really, really good for you.
It's a little different than the stuff that comes shaped like a bear.
Yeah, yes. Yes.
Safe, like we safe.
Sure. So well, awesome. Yeah, bees, I agree. I love the natural made honey stuff, the homegrown, the guys or gals that raise their own, they have their own bee colonies and their bee boxes and they do all the honey and stuff like that. It's incredibly good stuff. It's incredibly good for our environment and everything. So I like it. As long as the bees leave me alone, we're friends,
That's it. Well, the one thing I was going to tell you, I missed this part, and this was the difference between the males and females, by the way. So
Okay.
the males, whether it's a wasp, a hornet, or a bee, a worker bee, any of those, so their stingers are smooth. Okay. The females have barbs on their stingers, and those are the ones that you want to look out for. And those are the ones that will leave you swollen, allergic, all that stuff. All the other ones, they're just poking you to get you out the way. So remember that.
Interesting. We have an interesting breed of wasp out here in southern Arizona called the tarantula wasp.
Ooh.
It's the thing to cool
These
their
wasps
nest.
literally come up out of a hole, sting a tarantula like a full-grown tarantula, paralyze it, pull it down into their hole, and then their colony feeds on it
Oh
and
my
lays their eggs on it.
goodness.
Yeah, they're nasty little creatures. You should look them up sometime.
Oh my gosh, that could be a whole other episode, brother.
Yeah, they're nasty. They're nasty, nasty creatures.
Wow.
I've never been stung by one, but I've talked to people who have, and it hurts like the dickens.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, thanks for playing the opposite role today, David. We've got to do it a couple times, and you got to be the guest, our guest of honor today. All the way from springing up in Colorado Springs and talking to us about your bees. We appreciate it. Why don't you have anything to say in departing? Do you have any final words for the guests?
I do. Have a lovely day.
Have a lovely
I
day.
actually do.
That
Okay.
too. That too. And for those of you that are out there, we actually do care about you. If you'd like to drop us a note, a message in the chat, please share a thumbs up, a like. But if you are in need of anything, we support nonprofits, uh, veterans services, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
If you're in need and you need somebody to talk to, we will do our best to follow up with you in one way or another. We'd rather have a 3 a.m. conversation with you than to read about you in the paper the next day.
Absolutely, 100%. What were you going to say, son?
What can you do? What thing do you need to do if you get stung by a bee?
Oh, vinegar actually is very good because the sting of a bee is basic. So there's acids and bases, right? Did you learn that in science class? Okay.
No.
So the opposite would be to take like baking soda and vinegar. Have you ever done that experiment?
No.
He's
Never.
only in third grade.
We've done elephant toothpaste.
It's okay. That's okay. But if you get stung by a bee, rub some fresh vinegar on it, and it will diffuse the base of the sting, which will reduce the swelling and the pain.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. As always, our main sponsor is debspets.com. That's DEBSPETS.com for all human and really human also and animal wellness. visit debspets.com.
Absolutely.
Thanks again, David.
God bless you guys.
God bless you.
Thank you. I'm glad that you joined us for At World of Pets podcast. We would like for you to take a look at what our sponsors have to offer, and that sponsor is debspets.com. You can access it through the QR code, or you can just go to the website. So thank you for joining us, and hope to see you again next week.